Back so quickly. Hey, thanks for coming out. I'm going to hold this. I know it's a little hot and we're going to move this program along, but really to all of you who understand what these gentlemen are going to talk with all of us about tonight, you are one of the few, I think, in the world that has your finger on the pulse. And the pulse is just what the heck is going on this planet right now. Who's trying to manipulate us, and why are they trying to do this? And you're going to hear some astounding things tonight. Absolutely astounding. Of course, first, as you know, Tom Danheiser just introduced me, one of the finest producers of radio hosts tonight. And of course, here in Los Angeles, one of 500 plus radio stations we're on, but our monster and our home station, KFI here, Mark and Brian back there doing what they do. Thank you so much. In the corner, you'll see a man there with a flowered shirt. He's a member of the CIA monitoring me. Shows up wherever I go. Actually, that's Trevor Oliver, our Senior Vice President at Premier. However, before you clap for him, he came here to fire me tonight, so everybody go pounce on him. On the phone, and it's critical, I think, to the growth of Coast to Coast. But in so doing, it's a lot of work, because I have to come up with a new speech, something fresh to say, especially with the advent of the internet and YouTube. You can't say the same thing all the time. You know, people look at it and go, I was in Seattle, he had the same speech that he did in LA. Albert Einstein used to give the same speech wherever he went. For years, he'd give the same speech. He'd always be in a different city, and this was years ago. Well, one day he's with his chauffeur, who looked a lot like him, and he said, God, I'm tired. I just can't keep giving the same speech over and over again. The chauffeur said, Mr. Einstein, I've got an idea. We kind of look alike. Let me give the speech. And Einstein went, no, that's not a bad idea. And then Einstein said, let's take it a little further. Give me your chauffeur's hat and coat, and I'll stand in the back like I drove you here. And the guy said, sure, let's do it. So the chauffeur, who is playing the role of Mr. Einstein, is on the stage answering questions, talking, and then all of a sudden a PhD scientist comes up and says, all right, Professor Einstein, tell us exactly about the mathematics behind the theory of relativity. And he looked at him and said, that question is so easy to answer, I'm going to have my chauffeur in the back answer it. Now, a lot of you don't know when I do Coast to Coast, I'm in a t-shirt and jeans, and I wear reading glasses because I'm going to be 58 in 2 weeks. So I have to read some introductions, and we'll get going. First of all, Jay Widener, cultural anthropologist, filmmaker. He's been called the modern-day Indiana Jones for his exploration of ancient civilizations, and he is one of the best. He has produced, hosted radio shows. He's written articles for many periodicals and journals. He's produced and hosted articles for many other diverse scholars, conferences. He's been all over the place. He's directed the documentary Secrets of Alchemy, The Great Cross and the End of Time. He's produced 2012, The Odyssey, and Time Wave 2013. He is the president of Sacred Mysteries Productions. That's a video production company. And I'm told he landed just 48 hours ago from Egypt. Is that correct? Where he was filming a new documentary special for the History Channel. Jay Weeby. Dr. Roger Lear, a wonderful individual. When you meet him for the first time, he's looking at your body to see what he can remove. He has headed multiple surgical teams, and I have witnessed. Then we have Whitley Strieber, who I got to know when I filled in and then replaced Art. And I find him to be one of the finest individuals I have ever known. When we have typed some pilots for sci-fi, and they need a home run hitter to be the guest, who shows up to be the guest, asks for nothing, and he's always there? It's Whitley Strieber. Well, let me tell you a little bit more about Whitley. He's the co-author, of course, with Art Bell, The Coming Global Superstorm, which was the source material, as you all know, for the blockbuster film The Day After Tomorrow. A great, great movie. And it looks... He's explored the origins and the mysteries of the world. I'm not going to give you a long dissertation of Jordan Maxwell because you all know him. But the work on the internet of that movie, Zeitgeist, is based in part on the life of Jordan Maxwell. 15 million internet hits on that already. 15 million. And it's good to have someone like Jordan Maxwell looking over the New World Order's shoulders. And there are many days that he has to look over his own shoulder to see them looking back. When the fine people, Jay and Christian, put this organization together for tonight, they said, so what can we do for you, George? And I said, well, nothing. Coming here and talking to coast listeners is enough for me, except I would like you to do this, you know, because normally I'll get a stipend if I speak, expenses paid when I travel. I said, I want you to do me a favor, so I'd like you to stand up for 1 second, Mr. Maxwell. I said, I would like you to make out a check in the name of Jordan Maxwell that I can give him for my appreciation for everything he's done. Coast to coast and for all of us. So we're going to do that now.
Wow.
And then they sent me the check and I realized how large it was. So I forged your name and I don't have it anymore. So I'm just giving you the letter they sent me. Thanks, Jordan Maxwell.
I am absolutely honored to be able to be on the same dais with you tonight, and it's really a pleasure and an honor to be with you. And yes, you're right, it's cost me quite a bit to do what I do, but occasions like this tonight make up for a lot that's happened in my life. And thank you again for everything.
Thank you. And when you go home and read the fine letter they sent me, realizing that I spent the check and had a great time, you'll thank me even more. No, it's in there, don't lose it. Okay, let's get this going. It's a long night, it's hot, and we're here really to talk about a number of... I've got some other people to introduce real fast. Mike Barrow, of course. And Mike, where are you? Stand up. Jordan, why does it seem to be happening so quickly?
Well, I think that we are entering this 2012 idea, and totally convinced that we have a spiritual matrix in the universe, and what goes around comes around. And I think there's spiritual reasons why we've come this far, and what we're doing with our lives today, and what's going to happen. It's in the hands of the gods, so to speak. Something that Dr. Lear brought out that says, always trust the one who's looking for the truth. Don't ever trust the one who's found it. And,
sure. Yeah, bravo.
Yeah. And I want to give you an example. If you have a two-story building, and some of you may have heard me say this before, but if you have a two-story building and you're going to put a lot of weight on the second floor, like printing presses or whatever, first of all, if you have any sense at all, you'll go downstairs with a building inspector and go up through the ceiling tiles and check the foundation of the floor to see if it's going to hold that kind of weight. Understand comes from. So once you understand the problems that we have in the world today, don't just look at them on the surface. Go back and do some real dark research and find out who's caused these problems. Who was financing this fiasco? Restaurant one Saturday morning, and it was very crowded, and there was only one seat at the counter. I sat down, there was a young girl sitting next to me. I'm 19, she was probably about 17. So we started talking, and come to find out we both lived in basically about 3 blocks from town. And she lived 5 blocks from town, I lived about 3. So when we were walking home, she saw where I lived, but she would go 2 blocks further, so I didn't know exactly where she lived. And so we started meeting on Saturdays and Sundays in downtown, we'll walk home. So she always knew where I lived, but I didn't know it. I'm not going to go into that. So I said, okay, because it sounded interesting. She said, no, my dad's very interesting man. He wants to talk to you. So I went over, and as I was walking up to her house, the first time I'd ever been there, he happened by chance to be coming out the front door. And the moment I saw him, with an immediacy, my spirit knew that this was not a normal man. I felt it, and I cannot explain the kind of feeling that he gave me, but I just knew. I thought, wow, whatever this is, I'm feeling it off of him. And I watched his mannerisms. The one thing I picked up on him immediately was that this man was in total control. He knew precisely what he was doing, and he moved in a very strange, methodical way. And he said, come on in. So I went in, I'm going in with my girlfriend, and we went in and sat down. And my girlfriend had a younger sister, so the two of them sat on the floor on each side of the fireplace. I'm sitting on the sofa with him. He's on one side and I'm on the other. The mother's in the kitchen. And he's talking to me, how do you like living in California, and how do you like your job, etc., etc. We're just making small talk. And I began to feel a little bit more at ease with him. And I liked him, but there's something strange about him, right? And so we're talking, and all of a sudden he says to me, very coolly, he says, remember back in Florida, when you were 8 years old and your dad built a new back porch? Remember the new back porch he built, and he built it out of green lumber and it smelled funny? And remember one night when you were in bed, you got up and you went out the back porch and you sat there and peeled. Remember how you peeled the wood because it smelled funny, it was green lumber? And you were picking your teeth with it and smelling it because it was green lumber? He said, remember when you did that? And I didn't want to show tears in front of my girlfriend, but it frightened me. And he knew it. And he said, well, did that happen or didn't it? And I said, yes, that happened. And he said, well, how did I know that? I said, I don't know how you know that. He said, I know that because we were there. We saw you, but you didn't see us, did you?
We?
That's right. And tears started coming to my eyes because it was frightening, because of the way he presented it with such power. And this guy was in control. And he's, and you could tell, I don't know who this man is, but whoever he is, he represents a very powerful force. And I was scared. And he says, well, didn't you sit on the back porch? Yes. And he said, what did you do when you were sitting on the back porch? You were told to be in bed. You looked at the moon, and the moon was full, wasn't it? And I said, yes. And he said, and what did you do? You talked to God, didn't you? And you asked God to let you do something of importance with your life, didn't you? And I said, yes, I did. He said, well, we're going to give you an opportunity then. Because after all, you did ask, so we're going to give you a shot at it. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. He said, you're not supposed to. But he said, but why are you here in California? And I said, I have no idea in the world. I just came. He said, no. You're here because we brought you here. We have something for you to do, but it won't be till later on in your life, so don't worry about it. And he said, now where you're from, we know that you've always been interested in UFOs and all that kind of subject of aliens and all that kind of thing, right? And I said, yes, because where I'm from was from Gulf Breeze, Florida. Gulf Breeze is very famous. That's where I was born and raised. And I used to have all kinds of strange experiences in my life as a small child. And he said, well, you did ask God to do something, let you do something with your life, so we've decided to allow you to do that. And he says, so we're going to train you, and I want you to read this book. And he said, I'm going to give you a book, and I want you to read it, and we're going to train you, and later on in your life, we will put you where we want you to be, because you're here in California because we brought you here. And we have something for you to do, but we have to train you first. And it was just an extraordinary evening listening to this guy. I'm scared, tears, fright, wild imagination.
What was your girlfriend doing?
She was sitting there just calm and collected, and when I looked at her...
Did she expect this?
As he's talking to me, I'm looking at her, and she's smiling as if to say, yeah, I told you, that's him. And so then he said, you are interested in UFOs? I said, yes, I am. He said, you want to see some tonight? And I said, yeah, I'd love to. He said, well, come with me. So we went outside. This is North Hollywood, 1959. We went out in the front yard. It was probably 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And he looks up in the sky and he starts talking inaudibly. You can't hear him, but he's moving his mouth and obviously talking. And so I'm looking over at my girlfriend and her sister, and then he turns and he says to me, he said, they said they'll be here in just a few moments. They'll be coming from that mountain over there by Griffith Park, and they'll be here in a few minutes. And I said, who's they? He says, you'll see. And I stood there looking at my girlfriend and him and thinking, what is going on here with this man? And sure enough, a couple of minutes later, 3 beautiful, gorgeous, disc-shaped things came over, and it looked like a pie cut in 6 or 8 slices, and each slice is a different color. And it's circulating, but not so fast as to blend the colors, but circulating beautiful, almost laser color. Beautiful colors. 3 of them in a triangle formation. They came over, and as they came, he stopped, and he started talking to them inaudibly again. And he said, well, that's us. And I said, what do you mean that's us? What is this? And he said, we're here, and you're here now with us. We brought you here to do something. And then he talked with them, and he said, they're saying that they were going now. They're leaving. And they did. They started going out open, and it was made no sound whatsoever. 3 beautiful, glowing, saucer-shaped things. And as they left, I felt an overwhelming feeling. I don't know what this is. I have no idea what's going on here. But it's totally out of control, because this man knows stuff that he's not supposed to know. He's showing me things that are extraordinary, and he changed my life that night. And,
did you ever go back and talk with him?
Yes, and for 2 or 3 times, I didn't want to continue to bother him, but I just couldn't get enough of this guy. So I would go over on Saturday mornings, hoping that he would still have some time. And so we would go out, and a couple of times we went out to Palmdale and go way out into the desert. This is back in '59, there's not much out there. And we would go out walking, his wife and the 2 girls and myself. And we would go out walking, and he would tell me about the different aliens who were here, and the different kinds of aliens, and where they come from. And I'm a 19-year-old kid. I don't know what he's talking about, but I love it. I can't get enough of this guy. And he's telling me about the reptilian aliens as opposed to this group and that group, and some are our friends and some are the enemies. And some of them, he said, were under the earth, and some were above the earth, and they looked like us, etc. And then one day I went over on a Saturday morning to see him, and the house was totally empty. It's gone. They never said, the girl never came to tell me she was going. Nothing. It's just gone forever and ever.
That's weird. Wow. Amazing story. And when coming from someone you know and trust, that's weird.
All the years that I've been looking at this and traveling around the world and talking to people and being in the company of strange, interesting, and powerful people and listening to them, what's going on in our world, and especially in our country today, is not new. First of all, you have to go back to the beginning of the Roman Empire and watch and understand how Rome developed, and the terms and the ideas and the concepts of trust law, and how the whole country was put into a trust. and it was each individual person was a member of that trust. It was a security for the body social. It was kind of like social security, and consequently, when each individual was a member of the trust, and then when the Roman Empire began to fall, the family, the Pisos family, it's called P-I-C-O-S, Pisos family, were the banking family behind the Roman Empire. They're like the Rothschilds of England or Rockefellers in America. But behind the Caesars was a family called Pisos. Arius Copernicus Pisos was the father. And the Pisos family realized that the empire is so corrupt, it's just crumbling. So they moved the funds and the power, the political power, out of Rome, out of secular Rome, and put it into a new operation. It's like the furniture company is going out of business, and 2 weeks later they're open on the other side of town. Right. And so they put their money and their power into a new operation, which would be a theological, spiritual movement, because politics wasn't working in the Roman Empire anymore. And they founded what they called the Vatican. And I am telling you, after 48 years, I believe that the bottom line on what's going on in America today is the Vatican is trying to destroy the greatest country that ever lived, because George Bush said it, and it's one thing I totally believe, I'm totally in agreement with what he said. He said our enemies hate us because of our freedom. And I'm saying that's exactly right. Our enemies hate us because of our freedom. The Vatican has been operating behind the scenes. They gave birth to the Nazi movement. Adolf Hitler was Catholic. The entire superstructure of Western civilization is based on Vatican canon law, which gave birth to maritime admiralty law in England, and consequently the whole entire superstructure of America is based on the Vatican. That's why you have in Washington, D.C., the Senate. The Senate is where? It's up on the hill. Go to any good dictionary and look up the encyclopedia on the Roman Empire, and you will find that you go from Capitol Hill, and you go before the Senate, and the entire, the dome on the Capitol is called domus. It's a word in Latin meaning the explosion of power, the domus, the dome. And it was based directly on, Life magazine said, the dome of Washington, D.C. Capitol was based directly on the Vatican dome, and that the entire superstructure of banking, commerce, and politics is based on the old British maritime admiralty law, which goes back directly to canon law. And so what we're having today is a fascist, Nazi, Roman secret societies like Propaganda Due, P2 Lodge, running this country. And people in this country cannot wait to crawl on their knees to see the Holy Father. If you knew who this man really was, and what the Catholic Church really is.
Does he even know who he is?
And if you spend 48 years looking at this subject and become familiar with the system that came out of the Roman Empire, came into Britannia, and now becomes the backbone for America, we are in a Roman fascist system, and we don't even begin to understand the words of the terms. We can't wait to see the Queen Mum and the Queen and the royalty, and the Holy Father comes over here, and everyone thinks he's so holy. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter if you're offended or not. The fact of the matter is, Rome is still ruling the world. And the Roman Church was the power behind Adolf Hitler. It is an extraordinary story of betrayal and the use of religion and theology to rape and pillage a great country like America. So when you see the Holy Father, just remember, that's your enemy. I've been doing it for 48 years. The entire Roman system is in operation today. And that's why you're having the people with boarding and all that kind of stuff. It's called, the whole thing was the anti-Inquisition, or the anti-Reformation. What we're experiencing is a religious war to destroy the only country that ever had a constitution, and this is important, George. This is the only country that ever had a constitution written where it said that each and every person in this country is a sovereign by law. We are a free people. And you cannot have a Roman fascist dictatorship over the earth with the strongest and the biggest country saying, no, we're free. So you've got to destroy this country before you can bring in a new world order.
We're going to bring up Christian. Thank you very much. Christian, come on up. I want to thank you, Jay, Whitley, always, Roger, and Jordan. Gosh, we got 4 more Coast to Coast shows just with them here. Come on up here, Christian.
Let's give George Noory a big round of applause, everyone.